Hey, everybody. Welcome to Spiritside Chats. It's so good to have you all here. This is a nice, close family group here. This is great. How's everybody doing today?
A-okay, very good. Can someone
Excellent.
mute? I'm not around because I'm packing my stuff here, so I'll be like moving and I can't really push the screen so much. Is that okay?
Oh, you're all good. Happening. Anthony's going to the US. We're going to Costa Rica. Anybody else got any trips planned?
Moving day.
Yeah, I heard moving day.
Moving day. Moving
Yeah.
day. It's crazy because like this time and space we're in right now, as just like for those watching or interested or whatever, it's all just coming down all at once. Like we're moving our office actually, like the moment that we get back, we're moving out of the spirit house that we've been in for the last year and moving into an actual like office building where we'll continue the studio and hopefully really like the intention is really to hit the ground running with new videos and new projects, that everything that we've been working on and building up to should solidify once we move into this new place. So
Awesome.
it's really but yeah, so why don't we start off this call today with a meditation, as we always do. Is there anybody who has anything kind of prepared or lined up off the bat that they'd like to share?
I do.
Excellent. Devin, please take it away. You have the mic.
So, everybody, go ahead and start off by closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and finding your center. As you breathe in and you inhale, you want to make sure you're breathing in all the way to the bottom of your torso, filling yourself up as much as you can. And then as you exhale, it's a relaxation, it's a relaxed breath, it's a letting go, not a pushing out. Once again, you breathe in heavily. Fill yourself up as much as you can, let go. On the next breath, I want you to see your light body sitting in your position, doing the same breathing exercises that you're doing. Again, inhale. Again, letting go. On the next breath, I want you to imagine that light body being, I guess, a part of all the positivity that you have around you. And as you breathe in, I want that light body to breathe in. Fill yourself up with that positivity. Fill yourself up with that good stuff, that good light, that white light. And then as you let go, relax, letting it go. Again, you're going to fill yourself up. You're going to fill yourself up with all kinds of positivity. And letting it go. The main focus of this exercise is basically just realigning yourself with the fact that a lot of things around you, no matter whether they seem negative or seem bad or any of those things, are just good, positive things. And you do have the ability to soak that up whenever you like. So just focus on that for the next 45 seconds to a minute. Just as you breathe out, your breath is going to start slowing down. Each time you breathe out, you're going to slow down the amount of time you exhale more and more. Because exhaling is where we get the most relaxation from. Inhale to fill with positivity. Exhale to relax. Whenever you feel you've reached the peak relaxation that you can open your eyes, put a smile on your face, and just revel in how good you feel, because I'm pretty sure you feel amazing.
Feeling
good. I feel pretty amazing myself. Whew.
That was great.
Thank you, Devin.
I'm ready. Everybody else ready?
I'm ready. Man, that was really good.
Always.
It was like, it was interesting because when we started off, it felt like we were just like, you're just like, all right, take a deep breath, find your center, go. It was like really intense, just like, it was like a pillar of energy, just like come down. And then as we went through it, it was just like, it progressively got more just like, deeper and then more whole. So that was on that note, does anybody else have any experiences that they'd like to share regarding the meditation that we just did?
I think it was all good. I followed with what you said there, John, as well. Like it was, all just kind of, do it now. And then all these like noises were going on. There was like chat messages, and Josh popped in. There was like all these noises and car beeping somewhere, and it all just after times towards the end just really got into a nice mellow space. And I think that was a great process you took us through, Devin, of coming from, it's kind of symbolic of this hectic life we have sometimes, and then finding that center and calming space.
Yeah, I kind of figure most of you all have meditated enough. Maybe not all of the viewers, but at least all of you have meditated enough that finding your center and reaching a meditative space can probably just be done at will. For me personally, I'm outside and stuff. I actually came out here to help with all that because seeing that positivity as sunlight is a really powerful visualization for me. And I figured you guys can just find your center immediately, and from there I just wanted to guide you guys to be all like, whoa, let's find it, and then relax into that space. Because most days that just seems to be what we got to do on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah, I agree. You nailed it. Thank you.
Yeah, I love too just how quickly you can shift from one state of being to the other. Like that meditation wasn't very long, wasn't like a tremendous process, but just that little bit of mindfulness, that attention to your breath, the attention to your soul participating in that experience, just right there, that awareness, very quickly everything starts settling and those ripples get nice and smooth. I love that. So yeah, thank you for that meditation. It was really great.
So the topic of the conversation today is the path to ascension, or the path of ascension. And we picked this topic specifically because Aaron and I are going to be actually we've been planning for the last month or so kind of a talk on this topic. I remember, for those who are watching, kind of a month or two ago, we also did like a talk on empaths, and like the day before we did a Spiritside Chat on the same topic. So we thought it would be fitting to kind of really ground in this energy and start to really like open up the dialogue in the consciousness should be down at Rhythmia. So the way that we've kind of planned this talk, and now obviously we're not going to spend the next 4 hours or whatever actually doing our presentation, but we thought we could bring up some of the ideas of what the conversation is about, or what the
4 hours.
Sorry?
Isn't it 8 hours?
Yes, I simplified it to 4 because this is how long it's going to be, but it is 8 hours actually. Aaron is correct. for our talk. So we'll hopefully film it and we can put it together as like an additional video course online or upload to YouTube or somewhere down the road, which would be really cool. But the basic idea of it is first a discussion on what what ascension actually means and what it is and what it represents throughout, both all throughout history and then what it means now. And to like three main systems actually of interpretation of cosmic data. And the systems are the system of four, the four elements, the seven chakras, and 10, the Kabbalah, the tree of life. And then kind of relating all of those back and forth together with each other. I guess there's a system of three, which is those three systems. So it's very geometric in nature, but then by like observing and starting to learn about, how each of those systems fundamentally work, then we can start to apply them to each other and kind of make almost like develop your inner toroidal geometry, like if you consider that, your whole body of consciousness is a geometric field, this large toroidal field or what have you, that also has, different, the platonic solids in its essential structure. By recognizing these out in the world and within your body, it becomes easier to identify when things are out of alignment, because you can connect with the natural archetypes. For example, like in the tarot, or relating it to the tarot, if you're feeling a sense of disappointment, regret, or sorrow, you can very easily relate that and be like, this is kind of like the 5 of Cups, but like by identifying that placement, you have an awareness then of expansion of going, well, what came before that? How did I get here? And what's the natural process to get out of it? And how do I really, connect with my joy then? Or what was I holding on to that led me to this place? Or what happened that brought me here? So that's just one example of ways that that we can more easily, move through the different states that we move through, the positive and the negative. And so that's kind of the basis of our talk. And then the end of the talk is going to actually kind of get into really the essential practices of how to maintain and live at this state in your daily life, and all the different ways that we can do that. So that's a primer. Now, without getting too involved into that, I would love to open up the space now for anybody to did anything, anything that was said or anything kind of jogged to your mind, anything that you wanted to share or talk about or that you've been going through in the last little while?
I actually do want to talk about a pretty big experience that I had yesterday in the middle of meditation. It actually has to do very heavily with this subject because for me personally, me and Anthony were talking a little bit ago about how it seems like my path to ascension seems to be a finding of a path of balance between me, myself, and any issues that I've had residually stacked up over the years. And yesterday, I was in the middle of work, and I was in the middle of doing some visualizations, just trying to distract myself from work more than anything. But it led me to this thought pattern. It led me to this these like series of thoughts that was basically telling me all I don't know. I can't really explain the experience because it filled me up with so much emotion, but it was negative emotion, but from an aspect of how do I put this? It's like bleeding an infected wound. I know that's not the actual medical process, but or whenever you go to massage a really bad ache, it hurts, but it feels really good. And it yesterday, it just I was going through these experiences, going through all these emotions, and then it clicked in my head that this is my starting point. This is my actual first step because everything's laid out in front of me now, and I can't turn away from it. I can't not follow this path now because it's now so obvious to me that what I have to do in order to become this better person that I'm trying to be, that I can't not do it now.
You're compelled.
You know, something that jumped out at me, what you said there is you were talking about that was your first step. And I immediately doubted you because I thought, well, I'm sure you've made plenty of steps. Like, you know, you wouldn't be sitting here with us today if you hadn't. And then I realized, well, actually, every step we take is the first step. There is no past, and it doesn't matter. Every step is a new step. Why not say it's the first?
Well said. Every day is a winding road.
I actually find myself every time you think that you reach some certain point of alignment or understanding of yourself and the path that you should take, you do realize that there's like more to the path that you thought. Like you heal a wound, you understand a part of yourself or how everything is constructed, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. And every time you keep discovering more things, the hole keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like an infinity things that you can learn. So yeah, like every step you take, it's the first, and yeah, there's more than we think there is. Even though we think that we reach a certain point, there's always farther to go.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Totally. You reminded me of that Thoth quote of every step thou taketh infinite now is the mountain of light. It's every time you get to that realization of more information, you realize, oh, it's Libby.
Hi!
Welcome. But yeah, so as we continue that journey and that progression, the more we realize how much we don't know, and that continues, expands the journey. You now realize all the new work that you can do, and as soon as you get more towards completion and learning all that new information, you realize yet again how much further that journey still extends. And so I feel in the process of ascension is continuously never stopping that journey, because eventually it gets to a point where the synchronicities and the joys of life just becomes so present in every moment. You're like, wow, is this really the way the world was always? I could have never seen it this way. But then at that point in time, to keep that path going, to stay diligent in your practice and in your in what it took to get you to that point, is a very difficult process, because at that point in time, everything's good. And a lot of people do the really hard work when life is kind of in one of those low swings, because you want to get back up on the high swing, where ascension being like that spiral process of keeping that perpetual upswing always going. And that's a very like infinite journey right there.
It's interesting though, because if you try and force that, always having a positive upswing, you know, you're going to get kicked down to size a little bit and recognize, oh, you need to be humble too, right? Like, you know, take the good, take, you know, the good with the bad, or the medicine, or whatever it is, you know, that like, cause it's through the suffering that we are liberated, right? And that's sort of
all medicines are.
I just didn't catch what you said. Sorry.
All medicine is there. I'm just agreeing with what you're saying. You know, at most times, medicine sucks to take, but it's good for you, like you're saying.
Maybe just add a spoonful of sugar, right? I just want to say welcome to Libby for joining us. Actually, Libby was someone that Aaron and I met when we went to Rhythmia the first time, and she's an amazing graphic designer, and she's actually been helping us with some art and stuff like that for our logo, and now she's like working with Rhythmia. It's just some amazing connections that were made. So Libby, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. I love you guys. I miss you.
We miss you too. Today we're talking about the Path of Ascension. Right off the bat, is there anything that you have that comes to mind that you feel compelled to share about such a topic?
Ooh.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. I'm gonna have to think for a minute and come back to me.
You got it. Kind of reminds me of just taking this on this topic of ascension. Like, I'm thinking of the tree of life a little bit, because one of the things that now Aaron and I discussed this like back when we were actually like still developing and designing like Patch Tarot and stuff like that. And like the tree of life, you kind of see it broken down where you've got your main kind of the set, and then you've got that really low one at the bottom, Malkuth. And it kind of like drops off the bottom, and you've got these extra lines going to connect it. And then there's like a blank spot that's kind of in the middle. That's where dot is, for those who are familiar with it. I remember doing some research on this at one point, and it was describing a very interesting phenomenon of actually that the whole like middle pillar actually dropped when we fell in consciousness, and that the point of ascension and turn that whole pillar and essentially move it up, or even potentially take that bottom Malkuth one and move that up to where dot is, where the space is. And when you do that, you get this kind of like perfect geometry that looks a lot more balanced and harmonized than this one that has sort of a random space in the middle, And yeah, it was really interesting to me to read that, because when you think about it, like the way that Malkuth, this lower one, is described is that it's like the tangible physical dimension where things move really slowly, it's really dense, but it's the accumulation of all of the additional everything that exists, right? But then the one right above it, Yesod, is actually called foundation. And the reason that this is significant is because it's almost like if that was the bottom, like this is a place that is actively moving and shaping and changing based on our level of consciousness and our existence to feel as well. And so it's almost like by living with that place as our root, instead of this lower dense plane, having this Yesod, this middle place as our foundational root place, then it actively changed the way that we perceive reality to one of more of a liquid nature, one where things are actively changing with every thought, breath, intention, feeling, everything that moves through you actively is shaping and changing reality, instead of seeing the reality itself as this, dense, unchanging, very difficult to move, takes a lot of time kind of place. And I think that's kind of where we're going collectively, and that's probably what it'll even look like to perform miracles and what have you, is to live in this place where reality is directly affected by our very perception and perception of it and existence with it, then sort of to these much more dense, finite, tangible laws that well, I mean, they're still there. It's more like, yeah, it's more liquidy than dense, if that makes sense. Might not. I might have kind of gone off there a little bit, but Anthony's raising his hand. I want to pass it to you.
You said something really interesting there, that with the moving of the Sephora like coming out, and that's in this sense that's where our root is now. And you reminded me of Nassim Haramein in his documentary The Black Hole, with a WH hole, where he describes like a new model of like the physics of the universe and Planck's distance, describing everything as infinitely dense rather than being void, empty space. And in the mathematics he's describing, he uses the star tetrahedron and the flower of life and all the 64 point grid. And when he uses the tree of life, it actually folds in one, so where it all kind of matches in and does that same movement that you described exactly, Jordan. So I don't know if that's where you got it from, but that might be something where you can add to that as well. That's a really a nice little link that I just thought I'd offer there.
I'd forgotten about that. Thank you, Anthony. I'm gonna go watch that again.
Yeah, I need to watch. again recently as well. It's fascinating. I remember watching it, and it's like so full of just mind blows. God damn, I need to come back again. Kind of like the templates.
On the topic of Nassim Haramein movies too, I have to recommend this new one that just came out in the last year or two, called The Connected Universe, which is his new one. If you guys haven't seen it or anything like that, it's absolutely brilliant. But the thing that I got the most out of that one was the way that Nassim describes that every smallest existing thing in existence has like a holographic projection of every other thing, every other subatomic micro thing in existence. So it's like that Indra's net, but for every particle, every atom, or every smaller than, you know, like, I don't even know all the terminology, unfortunately, in this moment.
Yeah,
but it was
you were right on
brilliant.
point. Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
actually
yeah,
like
sorry.
that I when I watched that the first time, that's what gave me the idea to like put me down the path to Ho'oponopono, and digging deeper into that and feeling into the idea that we're all connected, and using that in my practice for energy work and healing, is finding that space within yourself where all of it is.
Amen to that. I mean, that's the beauty of it now too, right? Is like we you know, we people have been saying for a long time we're connected, and it's been like a pseudo spiritual or religious thing in some capacity, and now there's actually like, no, it's science, we're connected. It's so wonderful. That actually just reminded. Yeah, please.
Go ahead. I was just going to say that I believe it takes, 72 hours for the air you breathe out to travel around to the other side of the planet. So it's just, jet streams are cool, and you don't really think about the air you breathe being a part of a traveling ecosystem, but it is. And I think it's... Tom Chu, I think he does a really great talk on the connected universe as well. He did a TED talk about it, and talking about how all humans are connected, and the air was one of the things that he talked about that really struck me. So I'm like, wow, the words I speak, the air that carried them, is touching the other side of the planet in 72 hours. Is very literally a part of one big breathing organism at that point.
Amazing.
That's actually, that's cool that you bring up, because one thing that I've learned down this path is the fact that it's basically everything is like layers of organisms, which, I mean, everybody already knew that, but you also have to consider the earth as one giant organism, and us humans and all the living things on it basically as her cells for living. And the dirt is how she breathes and moves her organs and all that stuff. And because as the moon passes around the earth, it pulls the water in the earth upwards, and that's what causes the pushing of the air out of the earth, which is what causes the rotations, which is causes jet streams. It's how the earth breathes, and that's how she keeps all of her little cells alive. And it was it's just cool that you guys bring it up, like it's all connected. And I personally see it as everything, including the universe, is just one giant living thing, and we're all just tiny itty bitty pieces of it doing our own little thing.
Indeed, sir.
So yeah, Joshua, please take it away.
Actually, I think Josh just was saying "indeed, sir," which is good. I'm gonna jump in here because when you first said that you were gonna do this talk about ascension, and you said the path to it, and I went, oh my gosh, that's quite the topic. And you know, what does ascension mean? And then of course, you know, really just the word ascension means to the act of rising to an important position or a higher level. Okay, that's just the basic dictionary definition. And then I thought, well, what are we talking about is ascending? Are we talking about our vessel version of ourselves, our three-dimensional version of ourselves? Are we talking about the soul version of ourselves? Are we talking about Gaia? Are we talking about, you know, the universe? Like, there's so many different things that we could say. What are we ascending, or what are we talking about ascending? And so I want to pose that question back. What is the core thing that you're talking about in your 8-hour conversation?
I want to
excellent question.
I would say first excellent question. The first thing that kind of resonated to me was just tying this question back to the nature of the conversation so far, with the connected universe, and realizing how all of those different aspects of ourselves are very innately connected. The process of ascension, really, if you were looking at it from, we'll say, to ascend our own consciousness, right? Like the continual process of refining the way in which we view and interact with the world, the schemas from which we translate information, and just learning and continual growth. That in and of itself is a process of ascension. Now, as you learn and as you grow and become more equipped to interact with reality around you, you realize the state of reality around you shifts, and your perspective of even your physical form in that nature will start to shift as well. And so ascension in that capacity, at least from my perspective, would bring all of those together in a continual journey, that it's not one individual component. It is the harmonization of all of those little components together, the conscious evolution of our thought processes, of our physical form, of all of these components of reality working together. And so the way that we have our talk sort of structured is going to be looking at each one of those as an individual component, but also how they fit together into one bigger sort of process. And you could almost summarize that process by like that typical adage of the journey. It is that process of learning being that which takes you towards that goal. And so the path to ascension, from my perspective in that nature, is the journey of learning and continuous self-discovery. The end goal of that being complete and utter unity with everything. But the realizations that come along the way sort of like change what you thought it was going to be when you started isn't what you think it's going to be when you're halfway through. It's probably still not what it's going to be when you're actually done.
Definitely. Thank you, Aaron. Kevin, question further, like looking at the modern definition of a word is good, but to really understand the nature of the word, we have to look at the etymology of it. And we look at the etymology of ascension. It comes from a Latin ascensionem, which means arising, which means it's actually sort of to mount, ascend, or go up. But the first time that it was really used in the modern language, or in the modern tongue, was the ascent of Christ from earth into heaven. And so if we can take that as well, in addition to the modern understanding that we have, we can frame that a little bit better in addition to, and kind of combine that with what Aaron said. Really that journey, that hero's journey, or the Taurus, or the path of the soul, the major arcana, the going up the chakras, all of those together, or up and down the tree of life, if you will. You go through the rising, the elevation of your consciousness physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when all of those are moving together and rising together, we see an expansion and an evolution and ascension of your consciousness. But then it really begs the question, well, like, how high can that go? Like, can we reach a point where we can perform miracles as Jesus did, for example? Can we walk on water? Can we heal the sick or raise the dead? And what does that look like? How do we reach a level within ourselves of resonating at such a high vibration that you actively just reach out and touch reality, and reality just goes poof and shifts before your eyes based on your intention? In order to do this, I believe we have to become that connected, like brains activated, living from our hearts fully, like listening and connected and aware of this higher flow that's moving through us, because it's only in the state of complete surrender to spirit, to God, and the higher forces that move through us, that we can actually reach that state. So it's funny, because it's almost like, in order to rise, we have to go down. We have to humble ourselves and acknowledge, going to what Devin said, there are forces beyond us so much greater than what could even possibly could ever be described, that it's really just it has to be nothing. It has to be humbling to just acknowledge and honor the magnitude of creation that is around us.
If I may, I'd actually like to talk on what you're talking about right now, because one of the ways that I perceive it is the fact that, like we talk about, whenever we fully reach ascension, we unlock the capability to do these things. But can't we kind of do a lot of these things already? Like walking on water. I mean, we have boats. That's essentially it. I mean, that's essentially walking on water. You're standing on a flat surface that's floating on water. You're walking on water. When it comes to flight, we fly through the air every day now. When it comes to telepathy and communication through thought, we have emails, texts, we have Facebook and social media. We have the internet. Like, I don't understand how people don't see how that's not godlike power, because that literally connects us all together. It's the grand human collection of thought. Like, that's awesome. And people are just internet. It just worked. Like, no, that's amazing amount of power, because using the internet, you could instantly, kind of like what Spirit Studios is doing right now. They're using the internet to bring people together, to bring about change. And because of the internet, these changes can happen much more quickly, much faster, and much more cleanly, because everyone's connected by this ethereal, invisible force that we use a little magical box to communicate with each other with. I'm just saying, we talk about the path of ascension to unlock these abilities. A lot of these things are already available to us if you're willing to open your eyes and see how amazing these things are that we actually already have. We can already fly, and there's no doubt. We can already walk on water. Is that not awesome? We can already telepathically communicate with a best friend across the world. That's amazing. Just,
That was amazing. What you just did, what you just channeled, what you just expressed. Yes, we've built it. It's like it's here. I want to open up. I just want to open the space. Like, maybe come bring it back to Libby or Priscilla, if you guys have anything, or anybody else has anything you want to jump in with, following any of these thoughts on this topic.
I actually might. Talking about all these steps that you take in order to uncover certain parts of yourself and keep walking this path of ascension. It's also this part of all these religions that have talked about veils, right? We have to take 10,000 veils in order to understand the real truth. So there's more than meets the eye. And coming back to, I don't remember who said it, about ascension being a rise. We're talking about rising our energy, rising our frequency into a higher level, into a level of love, like a purity love, where you feel this connection with everything that surrounds you, like plants, animals, people. And yes, I totally agree. Like this connection with internet and flying and the boats, and yeah, it's definitely a projection of what we can do, but it's just a projection on a 3D level. Like it's just one veil. We can do those things in a different stage, of course. Like it's different levels if you think about it that way. I don't know what you guys think.
The way that I see it, ascension is less about moving upwards and more about just seeing the world in a way that suits you a lot better. And what I mean by that is you see the world in a way that fully unlocks your potential. You see the world in a way that you're all like, okay, I know fully what I'm 100% capable of doing. And now I'm going to dream huge. I'm going to dream about touching the moon, and I'm going to make it happen because I realize I'm actually capable of figuring out how to do that. They're capable of figuring out how to build it. Those guys are capable of figuring out how to do it. It's less about moving up and attaining new abilities and more a full grasping of what abilities you already have and full manipulation of those abilities on both a real world scale, a mental scale, an emotional scale, and a spiritual scale. Live real happy life. Do it as you can because you were born to do.
The end where there were some strange audio things, and I wasn't sure if that was on your end or I thought Joshua's for a moment, but it happens again though. Libby, I saw you just unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I don't have a language as developed as you guys do, so I'm going to do my best here and bear with me. And I can only speak from my personal experience, but I have found that in order for me to get to a higher level of frequency, as you mentioned, Jordan, I had to go down, and it's almost like my spiritual self was always up here, but I had to go down and grab my body to bring it back up with me. And there was no way we could do this separately, and we had to do it together. And as Aaron was saying, it is God and the universe, God, spirit, whatever your word is, the universe and your body and your mind and your soul, and it is all one. And in order to vibrate up here, I found I had to go deep down, grab it, bring it up here, and then I could use my gifts and start seeing the world up here. So I found that it is ascending higher and then ascending wider. That's my personal experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I almost want to say, like, if we're looking at the words and the etymologies of words and stuff like that, that ascension really does mean, moving up, but then you also have enlightenment, which is let's see what actually, I can just read it straight off of it because I pulled it here. I mean, the action of enlightening, a name for the spirit of independent thought and rationalistic systems of 18th century contentional philosophers. Which is very interesting, and like Buddha attaining enlightenment, but yeah, 1600s, 1700s, attested from 1865, it really started to get used. It's very interesting. But maybe we can actually apply both of them in the sense of, the ascension is that what you were just saying is like going and grabbing your body and getting through the muck of it to like pull it up. And then that it's like that's the horizontal, or the vertical, and then the horizontal is the enlightenment, and using both. And my only other thought, I want to pass it to Anthony. I think you said you kind of just we're going to jump in there, but it was that just kind of going with what Devin was saying, was like, the act of us creating technology that reflects our innate abilities and dreams. Like for all of history, mankind has wanted to fly, and eventually we invented planes that we could actually like fly and glide with. And then Priscilla was saying like that this is one way that we can do that, but then also if we reach a high enough state of vibration, we can essentially transcend the limitation of having to stay rooted on the ground. We can fly, and what we've already found is that through meditation, through a conscious expansion, you can fly. You can have like astral projections or lucid dreams or inner experiences and experience the sensation of flying. So it's already like a step in that direction. And it reminded me of the ancient Egyptians who actually wrote, there's a particular temple in ancient Egypt that you can go in, and it's very like sacred, off limits, and you're apparently not supposed to even be able to take photography in there. And Drumvalo actually got a picture at one point of a particular, and it's in the Flower of Life book. There's a particular like not mural, like a hieroglyph display or what have you, that actually shows like pictures of tanks and cars and helicopters and planes and other like technologies. And it says like the description around this whole area says like that mankind is creating and will create all sorts of fanciful tools and toys and things that allows us to do all sorts of things. And then like overnight we will change and we will learn to develop a new ability that allows us to rise beyond the need for all of these things. And so this kind of makes me feel like collective evolution, collective ascension, really, of all of us like rising, like as a species. We've invented all of these amazing technologies. We've built the internet. We've become connected. And this is still just the beginning of what could be described as like a hive mind or a collective consciousness that's actively aware of itself and each other and all of us in an active, like it's like the moment that you have a thought, that thought is pinging across the collective, like actively. When you move, there is movement that's happening, taking place everywhere. And this is like the active learning to become aware of that. And then moving on to greater things. As the Egyptians wrote, we will let go of our toys, our planes and our tanks and our internet, because we'll have discovered a deeper truth that allows us to go beyond the toys. Anthony, you're up, man.
Thanks, John. Love that. That's some great stuff. And I kind of want to speak in a few like riddles, I guess, like riddles in ciphers. But there's a few things like with what you said. Sorry, I forgot the name. Libby. About this reversal of going. You have to kind of go down and bring yourself up as well. Like on the path to ascension, I feel we have to also descend. Like the tree growing that expands its branches, it also sinks deeper and sends the roots out. And we have to, if we want to be godlike, we also have to understand the devil within, and we have to learn from both. And we have both sides of the equations. We channel in a new direction. It's that whole 90-degree thing. We create force in the middle, and that's that expansion that goes outwards. I think it's Nikola Tesla who said, if you want the keys to the universe, think in terms of frequency, sound, and vibration. And that's exactly what we're seeing, how matter changes. You have to kind of become a living paradox in the sense of, up is down and right is wrong. And there's no, you have to become this like alternator that channels universal energy towards conscious creation of what everything needs. It's a partnership, just like what you were saying earlier, Jordan. We need to sink into becoming friends or communicating with the world around us, and feeling the conscious presence and everything. And you know, those who know singing bowls, you know that if you just try and do it as hard as you can, it doesn't really make a nice sound, and you're probably going to get a cut off at some point where you mess up the frequency resonation. But if you move at a calming pace and you slowly add, you begin to generate this stronger force. And that's what we're talking about with the way we act in our lives, you know, putting out good conscious thoughts. If we think and want to create ourselves as these beings that have full control of our reality and can shape it in the way we need, then we just have to put the thought out like that. And if we're putting out thoughts of war and destruction and hate, that's what we get. And we've done that in the past. You know, we've had this dissension into madness, and we've created chaos. But from chaos comes the spark of new life. And now we're channeling that, and we're learning to be conscious and in control of where we're using our energies. And I feel like that's, you know, we're starting to accumulate. The ball's rolling now. You know, we've got the buzz. We've caught the bug of spirituality, and it's set, and it's sunk its teeth in. And now we're learning to be in symbiotic relationship with these things. And yeah, so I wanted to just kind of get that out. I was like nagging at me to come out. Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you
so much.
I really love how that kind of brought everyone's input in and brought it to a unified whole, in a sense. You know, starting off with that definition that Jordan read for, you know, what is enlightenment. You know, it's talking about the rational thought of the 18th century or whatever. Well, and then you'd reference how, you know, a lot of us think of it, you know, at least culturally, as, you know, the Buddha attained enlightenment, right? And that's a spiritual thing. But the Buddha was all about rational thought. The Buddha was all about taking away the perceptual biases from our desires, you know, and finding the root source of everything. And so to answer, I think, Kevin's question, what is ascending? It's our awareness. That's what ascends. Your awareness, which shifts your perspective of what you are, how you identify yourself. And so in that sense, it's very much what Priscilla and Devin were talking about, that it's as you become more aware of who and what you are and expand that idea of who and what you are, you have these new ideas of how you can utilize the tools around you in new ways to create new waves out into the world, which are just ripples. And of course, you're going to vibrate higher when you know, you create ripples in the pond. You know, waves have crests, they rise, but they also have troughs. And it is a natural cycle. You go up and you go down. It's like what you were talking about, Jordan, with the natural geometry of things. It is, you have the torus. And so it's just effectively this wheel. It's just a wheel in a circle. And it continually spins. And so there are points when you are vibrating higher and points when you vibrate lower, because we are already everything. There is no enlightenment. There is no final sense, in that it's infinite. It never stops. That's not what it's ever been about. It's never been about getting there. It's about being right here, right now, with as much awareness of who you really are as you can. Because you, right now, are amazing. And if you shed that light in this world, you'll see it shine back in every set of eyes you see. I love you all.
I love you too, John.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I love you all.
This is such a good chat. So much good, like just the information like everybody is bringing through is so rich with wisdom and knowing, and it's amazing. So thank you all so much. I guess while I'm on the mic for a moment, I wanted to share briefly something that kind of came to me when Anthony, actually, because he had said, you know, the tree that's planted and it's, you know, it's kind of rising up, but it has to go down as well. And I started thinking about it, like tree consciousness probably is not so linear that it actually experiences what it would describe as up or down. It just experiences movement, you know, like I'm going, not like even like I'm going this way or that way, or just I'm going, these are the ways that I'm going, right? And so it was almost like if I, you know, I was imagining if I was a tree or if I was a seed and I was growing, like going down wouldn't necessarily be down for me. It would be like going deeper, going, but not even deeper. It would be, down could be up, you know, like we with the conscious minds are going, well, this is up and that's down, right? So like that's, but like for the tree going deeper into the earth could be as seen as going upwards, the nature of like going to the core of the planet, you know, like going to be one with Gaia. And so that's just, that thought hit me when you were sharing, Anthony. I want to say thank you for triggering that thought, because that was really fun.
My pleasure. I got cut off at the end there, so that was just jumping back in. And I think the final thought, I mean, as I'm talking now, just to say it, was, you know, that if we're all just reflections of our outside world, I mean, I'm just the accumulation of all the people I've ever met and the things I've interacted with and all the life that I've met. That's my ego, you know. We are all just soul consciousness filtered through this pattern of memories and collective experience that we go through individually. So we're all really actually each other in some way, you know, whereas things that you have said and everyone else has said has shaped the internal experience, and then I've refined that, and now I have taken what pieces I feel resonate and move them forwards, and that's what everyone else is doing. We're all doing that. So I think this whole path of ascension that we're talking about will accumulate in a collective consciousness. We will be of one mind, yet still unique. We will be this, like Devon said, we will be the senses of the body of the planet. We will be able to express on a much deeper way, and project that further by having a deeper symbiotic relationship with the planet, with the forces of nature. Yeah. And it's back to you in the studio.
It's me. I was like, I missed the unmute button a few times, so I thought it was a sign. But okay, well, this is good. Let's keep it going then, and like shift. Maybe we'll do like a little, like a 90-degree turn then, and say like, I might have to reference Aaron though, like based on our talk, and based, you know, the talk that we're giving at Arrhythmia, and based on what we've talked about so far, where would the next logical shift in the topic of ascension, where would it move to from here?
The first thing that kind of just came up in this moment, I mean, like I have our notes beside us, and I could probably go through there and pick what our actual presentation would be. But in this current moment, Priscilla had mentioned the veils of understanding, and I love that concept because that really, it's paralleled with some of the psychology I'm familiar with of levels of awareness referred to as a schema. Or once you have all of your experience together, it defines your perspective, the way that you view the world, and the things you believe or the things you disbelieve are all sort of defined as this schema and the way that you view the world. And then as soon as something happens, or a big significant event or a new realization, that schema breaks. Once something that doesn't, relate to it, some life event happens that doesn't fit within that box, well, it'll either evolve the schema and you will have to redefine the way that you view reality, or you're going to take that one event and put it in the that didn't actually happen box, or like the impossible subconscious of like, I know that experience happened, but I'm not ready to believe that is truth yet, so it goes over here. But eventually we get this growth in our own perspective that gets to the point where it's like, okay, I can no longer look at reality the same way. And as soon as that happens, you are now equipped to go back through all those other experiences, but kind of from a new perspective, because you're not going to be looking at it the same way. And that's sort of how, at least in my perspective, that journey can happen infinitely. Because every time you learn something new, you can kind of always go back to that old experience, but it's no longer an old experience anymore because the perspective has changed, the schema has changed, the veil from which you were previously looking at that reality has been lifted now, and now you have a completely different way of viewing it. So I would almost go back to then the initial question of what is that growth process, or what is the journey itself? And again, I'd still probably define it as these conversations. Like this right here is ascension. But
this is it.
Well, I'd say that on a human and global scale, I think the first step would be our food. Because the food that we're eating at the moment, all it does is damage our bodies, bring about disease, and cause damage. So on a global scale, we should focus more on growing the best organic food that we can possibly make, and that's what we consume. I think that's a really good first step. Is questioning making everybody eat better to feel better. And from there, it affects everything upwards.
Okay, well, I will say in our presentation notes, we have sort of like an intro slide, the title slide, there's a little video meditation, but then there's like 2 slides of content before we actually start talking about food. So like, it's very much on there.
I love that.
Yeah, like addressing that. Well, there's multiple layers of it, right? Like the root level of what am I eating is huge, and we have to take that into account for our bodies. But then also like the bigger collective thing of like, why is this the food that's readily available? And that actually comes from a spiritual disconnect among all of society. And if you guys are open to it, just because of what Aaron kind of brought up, what Priscilla brought up with the these like the layers and stages of development, it reminded me of a piece that's actually written in the book of Patch, from chapter 3, which again in their talk we're getting into Kabbalah and stuff, but we actually didn't plan this part to go into our talk because it's such a big talk. But if you guys would be open to it, I'd be more than happy to read to you guys just a brief. I'll kind of summarize the 5 stages of awakening from Kabbalah. If this is of interest to getting a few nods, okay?
Yes, please.
We'll do it. Okay, so the 5 stages. This is the sentence at the top of the thing. It says the 5 states that you move through in the process of ascension. What you might expect to experience as you move along. The 5 stages are a double and single concealment, a phase of correction, and then 2 phases of revelation. The first stage, the stage of double concealment, is concealment within concealment. You cannot perceive anything that's coming from spirit, and you feel abandoned by higher forces. You attribute suffering to destiny and blind nature. There's a lost faith as a result of confusion as to the Creator's attitude towards you. Now, there is a bit of progression here, because if a person wants to be on the path, like the path of ascension, they'll often will rejection or otherwise have experiences that tell them that there is no higher force, such as earning money through crooked ways or seeming to be rewarded for evil deeds. Now, the second stage is the stage of single concealment. This is once you've kind of passed through that veil. And this is a phase where the force of the creator is present to the soul. However, there is still that feeling of disconnection between the creator and the soul, and a confusion about the creator's intention towards this individual. You may experience a great deal of suffering, and in this, even more concern in a lack of understanding about why this is being experienced. But despite this, in receiving the suffering from the creator, there is a recognition that of the likelihood that you are receiving suffering due to your sins, and that this is a divine punishment, that there's karma working itself out. And your faith in the creator actually strengthens as you continue moving forward. Now, the third stage of correction, the third stage is the stage of correction. And it is within the stage of correction that the soul penetrates the spiritual world and begins to see that there actually is, that it is actually your attitude or their attitude itself, which causes and sculpts the world around them that they experience. It is because of this that we know this stage as a stage of correction, because when an individual sees the way that they are feeling and the result of their feelings in the world, they begin to correct their behavior by changing their inner nature and intention. It's in this way that they change their alignment to the higher forces of creation and truly enter into what we might call the natural flow, or the desire or intention that the creator has towards them. The fourth stage is the stage of the first revelation. This stage is the first revelation, ultimately an expansion of the stage of correction. And it is here that things begin to make sense on a higher level than they did before. Now that we've begun our corrective work and we're starting to be in alignment with the natural path of ascension, the path of our soul, things are revealed to us about our life, our past, our future, and the experiences that we've had. And then finally, the fifth stage, the stage of the second revelation, is now sort of like taking that first stage and even more enlightened and even more higher. Not only do we feel the creator's providence all over you, but we experience it towards all of life. In this stage, we experience a divine sense of love towards all people and see what spirit wants for us in every moment, and hold nothing but love and compassion in our hearts towards each and everything that we come across. It's in this stage we have a very simple phrase that can summarize what it's all about, which is yourself, also experienced as love your creator. And that, according to Kabbalah, is the 5 stages of awakening.
That was amazing. Had I heard that when I was at Rhythmia, it just all made perfect sense for me. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, Aaron, we might have to add this into our talk.
Yeah, please do. I loved it. Because
first day
experience from, forgive me, I already forget the words, but from the first stage, I was watching my journey while you were reading it, and that's where I was going into the week at Rhythmia and working all the way up through stage 3 and 4, and by the time I'm home, I'm working through 4, getting to 5, and it's amazing. You nailed it right there. Like, you have to say that next on your week.
Okay, I think we will. Honestly, we might add it into like, that will be like how we introduce the talk, is like, over the next 4 days we're going to go through this, and like lay that out. Maybe
I'm already putting that into the keynotes.
Awesome. Oh, that's really good.
That's beautiful.
That's crazy. Oh.
Kind of the next 4 days. One of the videos I just posted to the mystery school talked about a spiritual guy who works with a lot of brain sciences, that he's taking these people and he's taking them to this resort for 4 days. And over the course of those 4 days, he's teaching them meditation and certain meditations and stuff that allows them to unlock their inner selves and attain a higher state of consciousness, even for a little bit. But he says that it actually takes those 4 days of them being away from the things that cause the triggers of all their negativity for them to achieve that state of a higher inner state. So it's kind of funny that he said for the next 4 days we're going to be doing this, and I just happened to find that video just yesterday. It's pretty coincidental. It's kind of cool.
That was the Dr. Joe Dispenza, right?
Sorry, say that one more time, Joshua.
I believe that was Dr. Joe Dispenza that he's talking about. He was a neuroscientist, and he began to study the patterns of brain patterns of people who'd had spiritual awakenings and things like that. And his research has taken him in the way that he wants to help as many people as possible, teach them as many techniques as he can to help them attain those higher states. And I love it's very much the same concept of getting in touch with your inner self and learning to do that. But I wanted to route back to what Aaron had said to start us out there, because he really reminded me that this whole pattern, it's all never ending, that never ending cycle itself. When I was training to be a priest of Wicca, one of the chants that we would use in circle all the time was, "We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending." And as Aaron was talking, it made me see the Taurus and hear that song again. And I realized that's very much what the purpose of Circle was, which was just to bring multiple people connected into one person. And to become one person for a brief moment and be more than that at the same time. And it's very much what what Devin was bringing up, that reminds me very much of this whole process of there are places like Rhythmia where, or Dr. Joe's retreats, or other places where you can go get yourself out of your old patterns, outside of the environment that has produced what's going on in your consciousness right now, your disconnect. And if you break up that pattern, it's inevitable something new is going to have to happen because you don't have your old pattern. And so if you do it in a safe environment where you have people there to facilitate that growth, we are the result of the 5 people we spend the most time around. So I don't know where I was going with that. That was all I had. Aaron really reminded me of that we are a circle within a circle, and that just kind of flashed in my mind, and I wanted to share it.
Love that. Thank you.
Guys, I have to slip out. Thank you for having me. And I'd love if you guys want to talk again before you leave. I'm more than happy to. But thank you all so much. This was really great for me today.
Thanks so much for joining, Libby. So happy to get it. This is so good to see you again.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I also have to leave soon. I'm just at work right now, so I gotta leave you, all of you. But not before. I just wanted to say we have been talking about ascension and about touching ourselves in a lower level and bringing it up just in order to get in a higher stage in this ascension path. And curiously, we are going tomorrow to be on a full moon, and I believe it's on Scorpio, which I think is part of this connecting and accepting yourself within the lowest and densest part of yourself, like those parts that we don't like, and appreciate them and make peace with them and understand that they're also part of yourself in order to be able to rise and vibrate in these higher frequencies that it can lead us to higher ascensions of ourselves. So I just wanted to say that it's been great to see all of you. Thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing time down there. Hopefully one day we get to join you, and the best of the best. Love you, all of you.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Have a great day, a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Well, where do we go from here?
I like what Priscilla said there about the the lower energies, and you said it in a bit of a funny way, which actually kind of takes me to the point of touching ourselves in a lower space, which is what she said. And that brings this notion of the sexual aspect. And I really like to talk about this recently because it's something that we have a very kind of stiff spot about in the West, the sexual energy. And, one thing is, sex is the reason we are here. And think about that. Sex is the reason we are here. We would not be here without sex, right? And connection with other things is an exchange. When we talk, we're exchanging, and we can convey emotion. We can convey our bliss or our, any feeling we want. In a way, that is a sexual transfer. And when we speak to nature, we need to communicate with our higher levels, but we also need to communicate with our lower levels, and physically and emotionally and sexually as well. And it's quite weird at first, but it is something that if we are going to be completely connected with nature and completely connected with the universe around us, it has to be completely. And that's one topic I wanted to throw out there to see what gets said back.
That's
I really
actually
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. You go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to throw in that I think that this is a topic that is desperately needed in today's time, because we look around and in our society, in our culture, we can obviously tell with the news and what everyone's talking about that the lack of talking about sex, by making talking about sex a taboo in polite society, we've turned it into a dirty, shameful thing in our cultural mind's eye. And while we wouldn't be here without it, it's still something that too many people feel ashamed to even hear the word, much less say it. And it's a part of who you are. Whether you're asexual or any atypical sexuality, in a classical sense, it doesn't really matter. The part that's important is that creative force is the essence of life, and you are that. And if we treat it as a bad thing, then we are the ones coloring it to become a bad thing. And so the thoughts we think create the containers, these astral constructs, all right? And then the emotions we feel based on those thoughts fill those constructs with energy. And it's once there's enough energy within the construct becomes manifest. You have everyone sitting around and thinking negatively about the most basic process of human life, for which we're going to have hormones that are going to bring our awareness back to. It's only going to produce bad events around sexuality, at least as a culture, in a larger sense. And we've seen that very clearly, very obviously. I'm not going to touch politics with this, but I think I've made the point there that just by making that reference, everyone has had a million little thoughts bump into their head right there in that moment. And it's like Priscilla said, you know, that brings it back down low for a moment, for us to sober ourselves in that awareness that this is something that's desperately needed. It needs to be okay to say things. What isn't okay is to say that anyone owes you anything. You know, it's like my wife and I, this is a perfect story. All right. My wife had cancer a couple years ago and we can't have sex. All right. That's something most people just wouldn't talk about. But it hasn't harmed my marriage because my wife doesn't owe me sex. We're partners. We're in each other's lives because we enrich each other's lives. We love each other. And anything else is a bonus. And I think that, you know, the fear of talking about things like that creates so much more of a problem for us. Because if we don't express ourselves, if the person we're talking to can still feel how we feel. So they're feeling our fear, and now they're on guard and don't understand why you're afraid. So then they begin to feel it, and it begins to spread. And so then you're holding that when you talk to the next person. And it's a slow poison, but it's still a poison, and we've got to stop. And that's what I have to say on that subject.
You brought up a really great point here, and I'm really glad that they're able to kind of talk about this, because in the evolution of consciousness is what we had talked about through this whole pathway. Once that faith and that fear and that understanding of the journey, the next step in that is kind of like getting up to the Sacral Chakra. And just the other day, I was going through one of my original Reiki manuals and was preparing notes for our slide presentations. And I came across this paragraph here that I want to read concerning the nature of the Sacral Chakra. And it says this: our sexuality and our sensuality are so closely linked to our spirituality that it is truly no wonder that all religious and power structures have worked to limit and condemn the natural sexual habits of a population. The only way to effectively cut someone off from God is to sow a distrust of the sensual body. The sacral chakra, Svadhisthana, is literally sacred. In every single ancient culture, the union of people and the pleasure of the flesh emulated the union of the souls. To keep the Svadhisthana of our planet balanced, we must reclaim this truth on a personal basis and integrate it with the new habits of sexual liberation, tempered with responsibility. When we have a firm grasp of our ability to create and what that means on a global scale, our empowerment happens with joy instead of fear. The prayer and affirmation for the chakra is, may the union of humanity with each other and the earth enable true creativity. May release from a sense of sin and unworthiness lead us to the full knowledge of empowerment as co-creators at one with a part of the divine. Now, if you look at the affirmation of Svadhisthana very carefully, you will notice that this is the only prayer that refers to sin and unworthiness. Populations have frequently controlled thought or throughout history by regulating acceptable expressions of sexuality and thus faith. Indeed, the connection without sexuality is often the quickest and most intense connection to the religious expression of spirituality. It is generally only actions of a sexual nature that make us feel unclean or devalued. Since we acknowledge that our worth is unchangingly positive and cannot be comprised even through making mistakes, it is reasonable to conclude that sin and unworthiness are both phallus concepts at their very core. You have the right to say no to that devaluation. Additionally, Svadhisthana houses our lessons from our previous lives, as well as the long-term trauma and happiness of our childhoods. When unresolved issues lie in Svadhisthana for too long, We can see irregular menstrual cycles, urological dysfunction, even cystic cancerous growth. When you find these old issues, send them up the line to Manipura, your solar plexus, and wish them a fond farewell in the fire.
That's amazing, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reading that. I also want to give a shout out to Philip, our friend who's sometimes in the chat, who he's actually in the chat, the typing chat today, and he wrote a quote from Wilhelm Reich that says, "The unity and congruity of man and nature will remain a dream as long as the orgastic gratification is condemned." Thanks, Philip, for adding that.
I think that all
So with
that
that,
is.
I think it's getting close to the end of the call here. So we're gonna actually have like at least 4 or 5 people in the chat yelling at us to draw cards, and so yeah, everybody with cards, bring them out. Because that's.
Just want to give a shout out to Summer. I'm not even in the chat, but I know that she's probably there. Hi, you're awesome.
She is. She just said thank you.
Hi, Summer.
Hi, Summer.
Yeah, that's Aaron, that thing you read was really good. That was really good.
Right?
So necessary too and like Joshua kind of just relating it all back to this whole topic, you know, just like so necessary for where we're at, of like really understanding our sexual selves and not being ashamed about this natural process. Yeah. So Joshua's got the first card there, and he's got the 7 of Swords. That speaks to a little bit of a conflict, a little bit of strife that's happening. And what's that? He's got the Wheel of Flow as well. Anthony has the Wheel of Flow. Anthony, I'm glad you're back home. You got your cards. You were away from them for a while.
Well, I didn't realize I packed them when I was in Lithuania, but they were like stuffed in the. I remember last minute I was like, I'm gonna put one in. I'm gonna put a pack in, and I found it just before that chat last time. So
right.
I did. Well, I was trying to find them.
Yeah, totally. So
I just found it interesting that there's a full pink moon in the card.
There is a full pink moon in the card. That's so funny. That's like as good as the time that we went to a birthday dinner, and our friend, we gave her a Pachoro deck, and she drew a card, and it was the one. So there's like a bunch of people cheering around the top, and there's the person going through the gate, and it exactly matched the number of people that were celebrating her birthday. Hold on, we've got one more there, Devin. What did you get?
Princess of Cups, I think.
Princess of Cups. Do you have anything to speak to it? Oh, it's muted. I can't hear you.
What's its meaning?
I think there might still be some audio problems because you're unmuted and we still can't hear you.
What the meaning of it was?
Well, the Princess of Cups is like the aloof dreamer. It is the sensual, like kind of like almost fantastic fantasy, kind of like this personality that has a magical, bubbly, creative inner sense, though maybe a little bit shy and doesn't actively outwardly as much, but definitely holds this loving bubbliness inside. And then in the ideal state, it translates into the way that she lives, which just generally makes life better. And so it's definitely living in that inner flow, that living from your feelings and manifesting, creating that wherever you go.
Yeah, that's
So okay, I guess it's my turn here. Here we go.
Yeah.
Heart of the cards. Oh, I got Death. That's a really good one. So Death, for people who don't know, is it is the transmutation. It is the going through to reach the other side, and that passageway from one state to the other, really. The way that the card also describes or like looks is that you've got kind of, here's the earth right down here inside of the Ankh, and you've got all these spirits that are kind of float this like kind of infinity loop, this toroidal flow that spirals around death. Oh, it's blurry. Come on. No, it's really wanting to focus on the posters in the back. But there's a transmutation in that process through this emerald gem at death's heart. And then it kind of goes up to higher consciousness, represented by the sun with the eye of Ra in the center, the eye of Horus. And then upon kind of going back up, there's a returning that takes place. And again, it's so hard to see, I guess, because it's just not wanting to focus, which is too bad. But basically the return kind of brings you back down. So it's really, it really and back down to earth into a new manifestation. So it really describes that expansion of our consciousness, you know, the death process, whether it's actually physically dying or having an ego death, you know, like having meditation, you higher plane of awareness, you expand and experience more, and then you bring it down and you ground it, like Lindu was saying, you know, going back down to your body and bringing this awareness with you, and planting those seeds to bring about a new life, a new awareness, a new you in any particular moment, which leads to the next card. But we'll get to that one later.
Hey, Jordan, will you hold up that card again?
Devin, man, I'm so sorry. I see you talking, but there's some sort of audio thing. Oh, wait.
He said, will you hold the card up again?
Would I hold the card up again? Totally. And so sorry, I didn't have it, but it was, I got your audio now.
I just happened to notice that with the shape of the butterfly wings, it with the infinity symbol, it actually creates an ankh with the holding of the straight line in the center. And it you were just talking about in your spirit science video on the ankh, it talked about, like you were just saying, bringing life up, out, and then back in, and in such a way that builds up your energy. It just I don't know, the shape of the ankh in the card with the layered on top of the infinity symbol with the butterfly wings, like the layers of it just like totally resonate.
Dude, I never saw that before, but you're so right. It's right there. There's a big ankh, like it's almost like his arms, right? His arms and then the loop, or like even the wings a little bit kind of expanding to make like a larger ankh. That is amazing. It's like as above, so below. Like I tell you, I am still like, as this is a perfect example, I am still learning so much every day, and I made them. I thought I knew what was in these cards. That's wow, good eye, very good eye, my brother. That's so cool. Whoa.
So much, well, they didn't even know something that's in there.
What was Anthony's card again?
Wheel of Flow.
Is that the major arcana, like the wheel?
Yep. Yeah, like
okay.
two cards before this one, or three.
All right.
Well, the third card before this one. Yeah.
And that's
very
just
interesting collection of cards for the full moon in Scorpio, which is all about transformation, as Priscilla was talking about that going within and finding the expansion from there, and then bringing it back. Life, death, and rebirth.
For me personally, like I pulled up the Princess of Cups. That's the attitude you got to have towards Ascension. You got to kind of be giddy and bubbly about it. Be all like, okay, this is going to be a little scary, but I got to have fun with it and just let it be whatever it's about.
Totally. Jocelyn, hey, welcome. We're just sort of in the closing stages of the call, but it's so good to have you here.
Hi, Jocelyn.
Actually, you know what? This is perfect opportunity because you're kind of the astrological mage of the community, at least in my eyes. I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a rundown reading of what's up with the pink full moon that's taking place right now.
I haven't heard. Have you guys talked about any of the aspects whatsoever during the call?
Nope.
Okay. Well, Scorpio, its native planet is Pluto, which is the underworld. And I think that actually there's some sort of conjunction that is happening right now with Pluto as well. But what the main theme is for this time that I've been seeing collectively, and also has to do with kind of the mythos of Scorpio, is the delving deep into the underworld, the unconscious realm, and really having kind of the dust that has been swept under the rug being not only ripped up and forced into the air, but then, you know, like forced into reckoning. So this full moon is about, probably for a lot of people, actually leading up to this point as the energies build, it's about our deep shadow being visible, and the cleanup that is required when that becomes conscious. So for a lot of us, we'll be facing, these shadow aspects that kind of elude us, the skeletons in the closet, the unfinished business. And in general, this is looked at as a very negative thing, kind of like a Mercury retrograde type period. But that is because a lot of our society is fixed in their mindset, which they see things as either being good or bad. But if you look at any of the esoteric traditions, this is the exact time in the hero's journey when the hero would acquire the skills with slaying the dragon, or with meeting his, his enemy, which turns out to be himself or his father or something of that nature, that will teach him a deep level of compassion, or teach him about a gift that he will use to wield as a king later, in the story, or something along those lines. So this mythos is very deep within, our collective humanity, and it's an essential part of being a human being in this physical realm. And so the pink Scorpio moon is about having compassion for those sides that you wouldn't normally show other people, having compassion for sharing those openly with others, and being able to understand these aspects that we shun each other for, that we shun ourselves for, and really being seen in those light, like shining the light on the darkness, if you will, to start anew. And I think that there's a double whammy with it as well, because as usual, our sun knows exactly when to kind of turn up the heat, if you will, because there's been two different sunspots that I think I'm getting feedback from.
Sorry, that's Devin. Devin, we just need you to mute your mic. I just turned your audio down in the meantime.
Okay, cool.
But if everyone, Anthony as well, could mute while we're not talking, that'd be great.
Cool. So there was two massive sunspots back in April 19th that ejected a massive solar wind. And that was ironically when I arrived back in Sedona. And I feel like Sedona has this amazing ability to ground these cosmic frequencies. But there's been a huge wave basically of Schumann resonance spikes, like on top of one another, just like one after another after another. And so I really feel like these ascension waves and these cosmic energies, first of all, we splice DNA with the same force of these cosmic radiation, this frequency that hits our planet. So I really think scientifically, if this is just my theory or my opinion, so take it with a grain of of salt. But I really feel that that as we're kind of going into this spiral towards the galactic core, towards our heart center, that these cosmic rays are asking us to really face all aspects so that we can see ourselves in wholeness, and we can heal these deep ancestral imprints, and we're getting all the help that we need. So it's just I love this quote by Pema Chodron. She teaches all about the heart, and she says, like the pain, the suffering, the grief, it's never going to go away. Like, it'll never go away. But what you do is you just learn to have more space for it. So you just expand into loving it. And like, instead of turning away the pain, you just actually invite it in for a cup of tea and have it like sit down with you and tell you its story. And in that story, we learn about ourselves, and we learn about how to love ourselves and how to love others from that. So that would be my summary on the pink Scorpio moon and what the energies have to offer.
That is because that is that on my end? No, never mind. Okay, that is amazing because yesterday you just put into words everything that I had visualizations of yesterday. Like my entire 8 hours at work, that story that played in my head, you just put it all into words, and that's some crazy stuff. Wow. I just wanted to put that in there.
Jocelyn, you're also getting some awesome comments from the live chat of people just saying like, amazingly said, well done, thank you.
Yeah, like I'm just beaming right now. I love it. Like, thank you for joining our call, even though it was like right near the tail end. Every time you join, it's just such appreciated. So thank you.
Indeed, thank you.
So as we bring this call to a close, we have to do our closing meditation. And now, is there anybody off the bat again with a meditation they'd like to close the call with? Jocelyn, yes. I was hoping you'd pop up, but I didn't want to like finger you.
Yeah, me too. Like, I couldn't take it, but I was just hoping to.
Oh, that's really sweet. Okay. So just closing your eyes and really connecting with your body at this time, this infinite streaming moment. Tuning into where you're holding any tension in your body. Tuning into the sensations that this gorgeous vessel, this machine in the matrix, if you will, has to provide for you. And just doing a body scan, so starting from the very top of the head, just scanning the body, and as you're scanning the body, if there are any areas of tension as you pass through the brow, maybe your jaw, making sure your tongue is relaxed, the throat is open, shoulders are relaxed, heart is open, chest is open, diaphragm is relaxed so that we can get those deep Buddha belly breaths where the breath comes all the way down into the base of your pelvis. And then just tuning into your legs. If you're sitting down, if you're laying down. Giving thankfulness for their ability to hold you, to move, to walk. to grace this earth. And tuning into the soles of the feet. Now imagining that there is a golden thread that starts at the very top of your head and goes all the way down your spine, exiting out through the tailbone and connecting all the way down into Earth Mother's core. All the way down deep into the core, the iron, molten hot, magnetic magnificence, the core of Mother Earth. And drawing that raw, organic potential up into the very base of the spine. And this can feel just like warmth, where you're placing attention and energy. This can feel like tingling sensations, and this can feel like nothing as well. But just imagining the core resonance of the earth. This is made of iron, red, hot, liquid light, drawing into the very base of your spine. And I want you to draw that light, this red light, with glowing embers. I want you to draw it up the chakra line. So up your spine, clearing the root chakra at the very base of the spine, clearing the sacral chakra, this light, this glowing orb, this ball of ember, glowing embers. It comes up to the sacral chakra just below your navel, purifying and clearing the center, imbibing every cell with light. Drawing that energy ball up to your solar plexus, clarifying, radiating, affirming, merging centers. The upper and lower jiao. And then drawing it up into the heart where it expands into the entire chest. Flowing over every single part of your abdomen, of all of your chest. And starting to radiate out. Maybe about 12 inches from the chest in the front and the same behind. And with each breath, this light gathers more and more light. These embers start to ignite as it hits this heart center. And we start to draw the cosmic frequencies from the great central sun as we connect to that golden thread all the way up through the top of the head. We draw the essence of light and creation again from the top of the head now down to meet this heart center where Gaia, where earth, and where sun merge together in the heart. And I want you to imagine that the light is streaming through this central channel as if a liquid light would be pouring down through the top of your head and clearing your entire spinal column. Purifying, imbibing, imprinting all of your cells, all of your DNA, all of your plasmic fields with this light. this cosmic essence that we all are. Opening the throat, the light covers the throat chakra, inviting truth, integrity, and honor at this time. Placing attention on your third eye, which is just between the brow and the center of your skull. Placing the attention in the light there. This quantum light turns bright, streaming white. And my prayer for you at this time, our prayer together, is that the light of the world will be seen in all of its essence, that the darkness will be seen with light and be purified in the heart, in this place that we're connecting together through heaven and through earth. And finally, just imagining this light coming out of the top of your head and forming an egg shape around your entire body. And I'm inviting the 12th dimensional essence, this greatest aspect of yourself, this highest unification, these streams of information to come into your auric field at this time. And for this egg, this auric field of light to be of protection, but also unification with all others that have the intent, that are similar in this way to your own, for your highest evolution, for your good, and for all of those that do not, that this sphere of light then touches their own and reminds them and opens their own auric capacities to truth, to life, to love, to bliss, to unification of all within this earthly plane. And seeing that orb of light covering your entire body, hovering around your entire system. You are the light of this world, and you have something so unique to gift, creation, for you have been created in the light, in the love, in the image of God, of all of creation. And so may you find your essence at this time. May you find your soul calling and your light in the darkness. Placing attention on the heart once more. Let's condense this light down to a tiny light seed in the heart. And in that seed, at this time, in a unified field, place your intention that will slowly unravel and take shape between now and the next full moon. What would you like to see come to fruition? What would you like to clear? What would you like to face? What would you like to grow into and become? Placing this intention, this powerful seed of thought and vibration into your galactic core, into your heart center. And finally, letting it go into the universal mystery. Just letting it dissipate. Placing your hands in prayer just in front of your heart. And bowing to one another. As we close this meditation, I say, we are one. We are in this all together. So you can slowly open your eyes when you're ready. Or if you're not, you can stay just as you are.
Thank you so much for all that you bring and share. That was amazing.
Namaste, Justin.
So beautiful. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. Thank you.
With that, everybody, we bring our Spiritside Chat to a close. Thank you all so much for joining us. The next time we do a call, we should be in a new office. So we'll see you all in about 2 weeks on the new moon. Looking forward to it.
So long, and I love you all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.